Well, I'll tell a little story, just a kind of a just an amusing, just a little amusing anecdote.
Turn that lamp on.
Bhakti and I we were walking to the little park, Chinook Beach Park, and walking back, holding hands. I got this stick. I was looking for the Lorraine Niedecker DVD, and I can't find it. And I dropped $30 plus shipping on that. And this woman hasn't put it on Vimeo in like 12 years. And it's like, come on, just put it on Vimeo, charge $4, let us see it, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I found in there my walking stick, and I'm like, this kind of, it's not wonderful, but it's good enough stick. So it's nice to walk around with it. And then this homeless person, kind of homeless, I guess, or maybe just kind of addicted or just kind of homeless looking. She's walking up to us, and just at the moment where she's coming up to it, and you could see that she's talking, but these days, who knows? You could have the earbuds in, it could be having an interesting conversation, and maybe she was. I'm not sure if she was or not, but she did say, "And my asshole hurts," and this and that. And I said, I hate when that happens. You know, by this time we're past each other, and she said, "Shut up." I gotta think though, if you talk about your asshole hurting in public like that, you gotta expect pushback. You know, that's just, I don't know. It seems to be. You know, oh my God, the things. And Bhakti is like, never a dull moment with you. It's always one thing or another. So, okay, so let's text Ingrid. We hope that she's okay.
Oh, look, you have to look, Paul, look up.
Expect the most wonderful things to happen. That's exactly right.
I love that.
That's exactly
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Exactly right. And then this one's for you, Carlton. I just, if you can see it there.
Aw. Was that your fortune?
That was one of about 20 fortunes I've had in the last 3 days.
Oh, yeah, well, I got the other day. I got this.
Oh, look at you!
Oh,
look at that! Isn't
that? Look inside, but there's no signature. It's not signed.
Right. You gotta see. You gotta come to Seattle, or vice versa. Vice versa.
And, look at that, Paul. Your book's going viral.
Yes, but you know, you get a shot.
It's a lovely book.
Goes
really good.
How, what? Is it lovely, you think?
It's very good, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. There's some pretty wild shit in there. Ingrid, here we go. Please come. Okay, we'll leave it at that, because it's 4:08 already, and I got I got a 6:30 meeting now that got added to the day, and then I got to walk after that. I don't have my steps. So, you know what? Since she's always the first, I want to give her the opportunity. Yes. Oh, wait, here comes Ingrid. So now you got a full slate. So here's what I'd like to do. KJ, I'd like you to either go first and then choose someone, or choose someone else to go first and then just wait for the luck of the draw. And remember, Ingrid was last week, so please, people, don't do that to her again. Isn't that right, Ingrid? I'm looking out for you. Yes, exactly. Glad you're here. All right.
All right. I'm going to pick Carl just because I think he's my buddy lately. So.
All right. All right. So here we go. So I have to then open the Adobe Audition. Okay. This is going to be fucking great. All right. So go back. And then,
not that great, but anyway.
Well,
I'm judging it already.
Yeah, you're judging it already. No apologies. So you want me to, Carlton, you want me to just go ahead and start reading? Is that, give me a thumbs up? Yep. Nope. You're muted in case you're going to say something.
Yeah, it's fine. Yes.
Okay. January 1/2/22. See, I was going to call it January 2nd, 22, but I guess you mean the day first and the month. Groundhog's Day, or in bulk.
Typo.
Okay, thank you. So this morning I read the Imperial Cannery, 1913, the Daphne Marlett poem. I enjoyed the images of the marshes, etc. The line that jumped out at me was, and the dry marsh grass that stutters out of silt the dikes retain from a flowing and ever eroding river.
Mm.
And then I read the Pastoral by William Carlos Williams. The old man who goes about gathering dog lime walks in the gutter without looking up, and his tread is more majestic than that of the Episcopal minister approaching the pulpit of a Sunday. These things astonish me beyond words. I like this image of the old man, though I'm uncertain what is meant by dog lime. I looked on the web and I rather like this one answer. I've never seen it before, but I would hazard a guess that it means that white residue left after a dog's feces has dried and bleached. Well, we're off to a good start tonight. Continuing our barbecue sandwich toilet conversation. And the lawn under it is a bit burned from chemical reactions, therefore lime. Wow, that's great. That's great. In the years before no one picked up their dog shit, when dogs were free to roam and defecate wherever they wanted and there was no social penalty for it. How far we've advanced since then. It's amazing. To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. Alan Watts. I read The Proprioception by Charles Olson. It is a fairly dense reading and will require me to read it again. You're not kidding. I have to wrap my brains around what I was able to read. Yeah. As I write this, I've been listening to the jazz of Avishai Cohen. Avishai, is that his whole name? I knew him as Avi. I guess that is. And he produces jazz. I think he lives in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. I think he's an Israeli jazz musician, if he's the same guy I'm thinking of on ECM. I read through the article Against the Source, Daphne Marlett's revision of Charles Olson. I read the one mine by Larry Dawsey. I like the quote, "Science has gone too far in breaking down man's belief in his spiritual greatness and has given him the belief that he is merely an insignificant animal that has arisen by chance and necessity in an insignificant planet lost in the great cosmic immensity. The principal trouble with mankind today is that the intellectual leaders are too arrogant in their self-sufficiency. We must realize the great unknowns in the material makeup and operation of our brains, in the relationship of brain to mind, in our creative imagination, and in the uniqueness of the psyche. When we think of these unknowns, as well as the unknown of how we came to be in the first place, we should be much more humble." Amen to that. And I think this is essentially what indigenous people have been trying to tell us for at least 500 years, if not more. Endlessly making an end to things, Paul Celan. This corporate growth that monopolizes the sun, moon, and tide. Fish Run, Steveston, page 89. I listened to the playlist and enjoyed the interview with Barbara Johns about the life and work of Kenjiro Nomura. Fascinating. My poem for tonight, my easiest Om, 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 Om. This Om, not so great though, loud, the Om spoken by the me, a rat. Are you a rat? Yeah, so 62 then? 62? No. 74? 86?
Hit me. Hit me.
Okay. A metal rat with arms, legs, sinew, and tail of iron, steel, and bronze. According to one side, I am smart, talented, hot-tempered, jealous, with a strong sense of self-awareness. Perhaps just too bad, perhaps 3/5 not too bad. Well, my easiest Om says, omelet. That side, I have this on a t-shirt, by the way. Has 2 eggs over easy on my breakfast platter. My girlfriend is a horse, a wood horse. Horses are emotionally sensitive and full of imagination. A rat and horse are incompatible, according to the Chinese, but we aren't Chinese, and incompatible is not in the vocabulary of our animal farm. That's it. That's the end right there. I fucking fucking love that. Oh my God. All right. I'll just scroll back up in case anyone. That's a nice harvest of the week's material and a nice little payoff at the end. That's really well done. You can tell if someone can write even by just the notes of a check-in, because I think these are fantastic. I think people would be interested in them. And who wouldn't be with talk of dog shit in it? An exposition of dog lime. Oh, wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. Barbara Johns is an amazing person. She studies Issei. She's writing a chapter for Cascadian Zen called Issei Zen. And she's wonderful. So I'm glad you got something out of the interview. Any thoughts about Carlton? Does anyone have something perceptive to say about his stuff, or that you liked it? I guess there's some notes in the chat which you can read. And I guess you get to pick the next person. And you know what? He went back to the previous week's, Yosemite Sam, My Easiest Home, which is completely fine. If you're still ringing, something out of stuff that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, that's absolutely fine. It's just, this stuff is just designed to get you to write and ultimately have a project that's almost writing itself. So, Carlton, who do you deem go next?
And I'll bet Ingrid.
Aha, there you go. Make up for last week. He's looking out for you, Ingrid. We were concerned about you, but here you are. Can you hear us okay? You're still muted. You got to figure it out.
There, I figured it.
Okay, good.
Okay. I like that Olson piece. I understand it more. As we've been doing him more and more and more, I'm understanding more.
Can you explain it to us?
No, not really. It's more reading the Marlot and seeing where she took it. I love that. I absolutely love that. The feminism, the white belly of the salmon for the moonlight, but taking it into the body, the body of the self. It was really interesting. I loved the reading this week that I don't know what the founders reading. Those
founding supporters reading.
Yeah,
Fred Waugh. Yeah.
Fred. I like that Fred Waugh. I really, really like that Fred Waugh. But there were other people there that were
Teresa Whitehill, and Robert Lashley.
I couldn't remember their names. They were all great. And it's like every time there's an assignment, there's music I never heard. There's poets I never heard about before, or revisit somebody that you've given us before an assignment, and they start making a little bit more sense. And so I just keep on with it. I'm going to read one short thing and then pass it on.
Oh, I got a comment before you read, if that's your check-in, if that's the entirety of your check-in.
That is.
When I came to poetry, I was reading people like Carl Sandburg and whomever, and then I interviewed Allen Ginsberg, and then I interviewed Michael McClure, and I read McClure's stuff and I loved it, and I didn't understand it. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I interviewed him, and he said, if you like what I do, it's because of projective verse. And so I started studying, and I haven't stopped studying it. And then I just assumed everybody would be writing projective verse because this is so powerful. And it's like, no, that's over. There was language poetry since then and conceptual poetry. You're behind the times or whatever. But I found myself attracted to those poets of this tradition, many of whom we've been studying: Robert Duncan, Jack Spicer, Joanne Kyer, Denise Levertov, blah, blah, blah. And it seems to me that there's more, there's a higher degree of difficulty. So there's more required to understand these poets. But once you do enough work then the payoff is higher. So it's not like, hey, Nate Mackey, I'm going to knock on your door and you're going to tell me all about your life the first time I meet you. He's like, fuck you, come back next week and we can see about that, you know? And it requires a kind of commitment to read to read most of these poets that I'm talking about. Yet once you do kind of figure out how their mind works, I envision it like a trap door. You know those trap doors that they have in some movies, like whoosh, down, he's down there with the alligators or whatever's down there. This trap door opens and you fall in and then you get it. And then the next time you read a book by them, it's so much easier because you already have some sense of how their mind works. So I'm glad that you are having that experience, and that proprioception particularly is making some sense to you, because you put a part of an essay like that and it's like, holy shit, what is this? You know, which is, is a completely understandable reaction.
Yeah, because the first time I read them, all I picked out was the male perspective in a patriarchal world, just Mr. Man talking. It was like talking at me, but I couldn't talk with him. But it was neat to see how Marla could take that and then do it in a feminine way, in her own way. It was just kind of neat. I never did listen to the playlist, not last week or this week. Those I missed. I don't know where exactly it is embedded there, but what does that mean or how to find it?
Well, you click on it, it should be a hypertext link. You click on it and it should pop up on your browser if you don't have the Spotify installed as an app, and through Spotify. And you can also search for it. I bet if you put Kenjiro Nomura in a Spotify search bar and clicked on, you'd find that after Kenjiro Nomura.
Because these are new to me too. Anyway, the new lunar year begins. Wind carves drifts on top of snow. Trees cast washboard shadows, passing traffic tracks a record in hardpack on the Woodland Road. On the first new moon of the year, on a cross-quarter day, halfway over the bridge, halfway on the way to spring, enter the year of the tiger. We light the first fire festival with Imbolc blessings, pumpkins and witches, and tiger leaps into a wheel of flames. The flame reflects in tiger eye stone, and a tiger roars. That's all I've got. But that's my check-in. I just love everybody else, and that's good enough.
Well, Adelia loved, like I did, see that? And Carl put, I love the washboard shadows. To tell us, can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with that?
Well, the way that the trees strike, it's almost barcoding the road. And if you look at it that way, it's got all those ridges in it because the tree shadows stretch and they become lines in all kinds of thicknesses, like on a barcode. Mm-hmm. It's really kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So I was walking down the driveway and looking around and feeling the cold in my face, and just trying to find my way, mm-hmm. to Imbolc and mm-hmm. to Bridget, the feast day of Saint Bridget, and mm-hmm. and Candlemas. I mean, there was so much piled on top of so much. Mm-hmm. The different animals came in, one of the 12, and I mean, it's just rich. All of the intermixing, all of the crossing.
Mm-hmm. Woodman Road, that's the road out. Is that the road? That's not the road you're on, is it? Oh, did we lose Laura again? Laura? Oh no, there you. We lost somebody. We got 9 boxes. We're missing one. Oh well, we'll worry about that. Woodman Road.
My driveway is like a third of a mile through the woods, and it's just, I walk up to the mailbox. It's a good little walk, but it's flat, and it's at the top of the ridge here. It's really kind of nice.
I was reading a book. I've read a couple of chapters in a book about uh, Big Sur, where Robinson Jeffers, of course, and Robinson Jeffers, he was so popular that people would go to Big Sur looking for the characters in his poems, and you know, they were composites, but they kept knocking on the door of the woman who authored this book. But the poetry was so real and it was so connected to place that it created this sort of mythos around Big Sur. And you know, when I hear, you know, specific place names, I think, you know, this is why the luminous details. You want to have these kind of reactions in your work. So I noted that one when you were reading, and I encourage it, the specifics. Absolutely.
And Carlton, I loved that there was humor in what there often is humor, but you did it as a run this time. It was really kind of cool. Thank you. That was really neat. Now I look forward to everybody else, and I don't have to worry about my turn. I can just enjoy all the rest of you.
You got it out of the way, Ingrid. You did.
Well, you fuel me. All of you do. You're really good, every one of you.
Which one of them is next?
Let's let Tim go next, please.
There you have it. Thank you, Ingrid. Off to I was going to say Rancho Chaotic, but it's Rancho Chaotic. And did you have some kind of storm, some kind of icy storm come through your
We
town?
definitely had some ice and and freezing weather, and we'll drop below freezing again today. Hard freezes for us. Warmed up today to 60 though, but we'll drop below 30 again, which is strange for us.
Hence your Viking toque.
Well, you know, I'm a fan anyway, but yes, definitely the chill has begun again after a nice warm day. Okay, where do we start? Proprioception. There's a thing we do. I call it the small dance in warming up for performances and things. And it's just a matter of standing, feet grounded, balanced, but you close your eyes and you attempt to sense the internal gyro, because you don't collapse into a puddle. You remain erect. You're fighting gravity the whole time, but the idea is to sense all the little pushes and pulls of the muscular structure that keep you upright. And that just was kept coming back, especially with the marlet. I love the new vision of Olson that we have developed over time. I like Ingrid, you know, it started out, you know, who is this bombastic patriarch guy? But then each layer of the onion we peel back, you know, so the influence of Japan and India, you know, all the, you know, the study of the languages and things, all that just starts to blossom and really has, and because rereading these things starts to make more and more sense. What was the thing that Marlet said? What matters gains new meaning when redefined by matter that doesn't matter. I kind of love that. The Kajiro, oh wow, what a great interview that was, Paul. And I immediately flashed to the couple of years ago, a book came out of photographs that Dorothea Lange took in the internment camps. She was actually a government artist when she took them, but when she took the initial pictures, they buried them because they were too sympathetic and they didn't want anybody to feel sorry for these people. What was the, oh, I love the Imperial Cannery. Also, just the whole idea, and then later it was also written about in the article, the gum boots in the wet, and the wet was water, and then it became blood, and And these people are covered with the fish product. Was that was really beautiful. Dog bags, Paul. In my daily writing now that I've been attempting of going into my walk in the park with the dog every day, and since the during cedar fever time anyway, even before the pandemic, I would wear a mask to protect myself from the cedar pollen. And there's how many people have dogs and have those little dog bags? Nobody with dogs. Seriously?
We know whose
Okay.
fault it is if we step into dog shit, Tim. That's what we're saying here.
It's mine now. And I'm sorry, I was born in the year of the dog. I'm a water dog. I was married in the year of the dog also. My son's a tiger. My wife's a rat. I mean, a rabbit.
What flavored dog are you? Like
I'm a water dog.
Water dog. Okay.
Yeah. But the dog bags, you get these disposable dog bags. There's a little dispenser. They apparently are compostable and break down when they go into the system, but they're and with my arthritis also, they're impossible to open. They're impossible to open. And the thing is, you have to lick your fingers to get friction going. And I've been in a mask for 2 years now, and you don't know how many times I stick my fingers into that goddamn mask trying to lick them because I can't get the dog bag open. Anyway, that's
as long as you don't lick your fingers after, I think it works out.
There you go. The playlist, outstanding. I like whiskey. The Japanese have become great students of jazz, and that was just a great flowing a list to do other things by, Paul. Thank you. And no, so I never heard of any of those people, and just to go hear those classics, and it's like, oh wow. And it's like, oh no, go ahead and start something, and those people will take it to the limit, which was very impressive. I bought myself a book, The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Has anybody ever read that or seen that book? Fantastic book. And it came to me in, there was a word that showed up in my world, imbedo, life for its own sake. Imbedo, a kind of melancholic trance, which you become completely absorbed in a vivid sensory detail. Raindrops slithering down the window, tall trees leaning against the winds, clouds of cream swirling in your coffee.
Please put that word in the chat before it's over. The Latin references to whiteness and ambi, or meaning both, but it means to gnaw or to wither away, actually. But I'm loving this new book with all these obscure and esoteric words that are not used in the world anymore. I did not do any writing as far as poetry, except I almost wrote a poem to you, Paul. Did your card show up? Not yet.
Okay. But once again, it's about smoking, JJ. Because I've always been a fan of tobacco, I just don't do it anymore. But I think that's it. Those things, great music, a lot of stuff happened.
Your description of proprioception was fantastic. That was so visceral and so fantastic. It was such a gift. If that's all you did in the check-in, it would have been such a gift just to have that. In fact, I'd half a mind to edit that when the video of this is over, edit that out and say, proprioception, listen to this. And it's like, what was it, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that?
And I recommend that little exercise for people. I learned it from dancers.
Can you take us through it? Can you take us through it now?
Yeah, so you stand and ground yourself. And I would say put your hands on your core so you can feel your breath a little bit too. Loose knees, don't let your knees be stiff, and just close your eyes and just continue to breathe. And you'll see that your body sways, but it always corrects itself to keep yourself upright. And as you become more and more in tune with it, you start to feel, oh, I started to fall forward just a little bit, and the muscles in the back of my legs, my thighs, engaged and pulled me back upright. You can almost play with the sway just a little bit. Let yourself move back and forth a little bit, and then ground yourself again. And we would just do it for a few minutes as a perception warm up. Is anybody feeling it? But that's the idea. I've the tiny dance, or the small dance is what I've heard it called, in the fact that, yes, even when standing still, the body is in that constant motion, and will protect itself is the other idea. That your body, if you let go, your body will engage and hold you upright.
And hence the song, Hold Me Closer, Tiny Dancer.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. I always say that with a Russian accent because of an episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. By the way, Howard Hessman just died a couple of weeks ago. I was connected to Latifah Taormina through the committee, the improv group in San Francisco that was based on Second City. Tim, fantastic exercise. Oh my God, that's just, what a beautiful thing to experience. And proprioception, it's one thing to talk about these concepts, but to experience them and to be reminded or get some different angle on it, that's gold. That's fantastic. What a gift. Your appreciation of Steveston is, on some level, I guess I knew why I put that in there, the connection with Japanese, the connection with, someone from this school of writing, an outside writer, and how, to me, it's just endlessly fascinating that the writers in Vancouver in the early 60s took on all this outside stuff, and they became the establishment in many ways, and how it's an establishment of outside, which is really fantastic. So Fred Wan, Daphne Marlett, we're lucky to have these elders in our community. And I think you're lucky in a way that you're being exposed to them, because most people in the United States, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about when you mention these people. And there's others too.
I didn't mention that too, but that came across so strongly, that woman's point of view. When she talks about the cycles, the menstrual cycles, those things that she might have used the word trapped, but that those are, I would say, grounding. That it grounded the work even more. Mm-hmm. But then that becomes part of the proprioception also, because it's the effects that these things are having on your body. Mm-hmm. But that women experience and men don't.
There will be another proprioception essay coming that I think is even more astute. So brace yourself for that. It is also a little on the academic side, but it's well worth the slog. And I don't think she's overtly or gratuitously academic. So I liked it. I remember seeing it years ago, and I think it's perfect for us right now. But the other thing about Daphne is, here she is, she's well aware of what happened in her backyard, and she writes a book-length poem. She writes a serial poem about Steveston. This is an important thing to note, because everybody in this room lives in a place where there was some kind of historical thing that, if we looked at it through 2022 eyes, we're going to see how fucked up it was. And we don't have to, you don't have to use any kind of rhetoric. You just have to tell the story. And just because you're telling it with 2022 eyes is going to make it very clear. And this is the kind of work that I think this is one of the most important things that poetry can do, is look at something that happened in the past and retell it so that it's news that stays news. That's what Pound said. Poetry is news that stays news. And Williams, it is difficult to get the news from it was difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there. And that's 100 years old, and it's even more true today, because look at all the crap that's on the news. I mean, most of the people who watch Fox News, they're quickly losing touch with all aspects of what's really going on, to believe the big lie. And, you know, in Canada, the same thing's happening with the truckers in Ontario, you know, treating the streets of Ontario like their toilet. That seems to be the trope. I think we talked about this last week. We could talk about trucker lime, and this group would have a better understanding of what that is than the average person. So fantastic, Tim. I'm glad you got so much out of it, and I'm glad you listened to the playlists. Diana from the other workshop said, you know, I started listening to those playlists and they put me in the mood to write. There's something about it. And yes, it's because, I think in part because those are improvisations. So why not be listening to improvisation while you improvise your poems? So I think the playlists are more effective than I had any idea when I started assigning those. And there's a gorgeous one coming up in the next one, just gorgeous. So Tim, you get to pick the next participant.
Susan, you're up.
Just like that.
Oh, hello. Okay, let's see. I can read you part of my poem that I've been working on about the mountain stuff. Let's see. I keep changing it, but now it's called An Old Cabinet Burns. It is the cedar smoke, I wish, up into the short sky. Greasy milk in my throat, sounds hollow, sounds like cedar. A tree so fragrant I get lost thinking about it. The old cabin burns inside its windows, coppery light from the sun. I see this as I pass by, wishing it would stay this way. The old cabin, a net for dreams, for light. Its windows alive, glowing, hissing glass. I pass by, then looks abandoned again when I look back. It is the old Morse place, a dark house between new buildings, old oaks, and the mountain looking blue again. I read about the fragrant mountain, all its hidden treasures. Red-tailed hawk, baby falcon. What I see is milk running down like snow, down the sides of cheeks of the mountain hidden in clouds, of its own making. Bliss where trees should be, the ears of a listening forest. The mountain is scraped pink where its forest used to be, sliding towards the canyons along the Calapooya. Rock beds, rock stairs, rock bridges, real, not imagined. Where I wrote letters to the sky and sun, where I imagined my life, what it would be like. Outside that world, an envelope. What would fit inside? So much. Notes, letters, the past. Middle part skipped over to the end of your life. It is now when an old best friend contacts you and says, hello, I saved your letters. Would you like to see them? The small girl I was fits easily inside an envelope when words were bigger than who she was. Now it seems the other way around. Words so tiny, not fitting even outside the envelope, not counting anything inside. Was it after or before she went away to Venezuela? She said, I said we wore overalls, laughing, cool, in Reno, the apartments near the airport, and mountains surround one side of the town. So that's what I have. I'm working on my long poem. And I
Wait. Just let it.
I really
Wait. Just let that sink in. Let us have a moment to let that sink in, because that's fantastic. Oh my God. There's so much to talk about. Yeah. People are going to start putting in their, it's like going to be at the reading where people start typing in their favorite lines from it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I liked reading again about, you know, the strangest thing you can encounter is what is familiar, that quote. That's so interesting to think about it. Daphne Mallet. I loved looking at the prose, the long lines, and the subject matter of the cannery, because there's one, I guess Florence, Oregon was a cannery town, or they did build a cannery there in the town, but the sand dunes, the sand blowing from the sand dunes, clogged up the machines pretty quickly. So the big dream of, the boomtown aspect of where we are, is interesting, and the mentality of the economic booms, throughout the past 500 years. And so, ripping the free resources, the fish, the trees, the minerals. Now it's
resource extraction.
the water. And of course the oil. Yeah. So it was super interesting to hear, a group of poets, from Canada. But I'm sorry, not Fraser River School, but another name of a river school. The not Kalispell School.
Are you thinking of the Kootenai School of Writing?
Yeah, Kootenai School of Writing. Yeah. So it is interesting to find out and learn about that and the history. And I guess, yeah, I was introduced last year to that, but wasn't quite aware of what I was reading through this course last year. So yeah, and then also taking Charles Olson and his work, not alone, but in a group, of readings, and with, so sort of placing him or reading a short amount of his work with other writers is also another way, as Tim was talking about, it's another way of, and also Ingrid talking about, that's sort of maybe a more approachable way to absorb some of his writing. Okay, I pick Adelia to go next.
Hold on just a sec. Greasy is a theme. There's grease last week in Greece. This week the milk is greasy. I love that. I love the greasy milk. I think it was greasy smoke last time. What is greasy? What does that connote to you?
To me?
Yeah.
Maybe the sound of it, or Greece, the country or something. I don't know.
You also had the short sky. We were talking about sky, I think, before you joined, because Laura's in big sky country and KJ said that the sky was big there. I thought the sky here in Seattle was medium sized, but yours was short. It was a short sky.
Oh, because of all the fog, probably. Yeah.
That was so wonderful. I was just closing my eyes and enjoying that as you read. Fantastic. Beautiful. I hope it continues. It seems like there's a lot of juice there. Was the bliss where trees should be? Was that the line? Did I get that right?
That's a kind of a false image, but whatever.
No, it's fantastic. I loved it. Yeah, look at the thumbs up. Well, you chose Adelia. Susan, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say I also closed my eyes and just listened to that poem, Susan. I just loved it, and I was wishing I think I maybe I didn't put the note yet. I'd love to see the text. It's just I felt like it was over too quickly, and you went so many beautiful places, and it was always surprising. That's what I love about your work, is it's so surprising. I never quite know where you're going to go next, and your voice is strong and very authentic. It's very, maybe authentic gets overused, but it's sincerely you. There's no, it just, and without pretension, and it's just, yeah.
We
So
know
I
she's
really-
going to go somewhere greasy, that for sure.
That for sure. Or she might be well, certainly maybe a greasy spoon for a bit, but who knows? I've got
Maybe a greasy fork. That would be even better.
greasy fork. I know, it wouldn't just be a greasy spoon. It would be something more. So I have a little bit of grease in my poem, but I want to just, I wrote out my comments this week. I'm going to read from them because so often I forget when faced with the class.
I hope you don't get named the grease poets. That would not be, we can't have that.
We could make it try and follow up with the musical. So I did look through Charles Olson again. And there's so much about the quotes that we work with Charles Olson that I really like, but I always find him a little bit dense, and so happy to get to Daphne Marlett, who always has this amazing effect on my work. Whenever I think about her, talk to her, well, I've had the opportunity to talk to her a couple of times now. I feel so privileged, especially one very important conversation that blew my poetry wide open. Just so, and I was looking for my copy of Steveston, Paul. I can't find it, but I might ask if there's time if you could read a little bit from Steveston. Otherwise I would have, but I couldn't find it. So, okay, so every time I read her work or her ideas, my poems open up like flowers or torn open envelopes. And I really love that she trained herself in Olson's poetic, but in the feminine stance, almost unwittingly. I'm quoting a little bit. The injunctions to get rid of the lyric ego, to pay strict attention to the conjoined movement of body, aka breath, and mind in the movement of line. And the fact that she was influenced by Olson, but was also a little bit uneasy. And it's so logical that she moved forward to study Hélène Cixous, who's somebody whose name has been around forever, but I've never looked into her poetics. And I'm now inspired to do that. So she's rethinking Olson in light of Cixous' theories, and they call it a feminine bodily aesthetic. Okay, and Steveston, as I mentioned, has actually been a seminal book. I've returned to it again and again to see how Marlett writes about the docks and about fishermen, and it just ties in with, for me, living on the coast and hanging around docks a lot at one time. And I feel like there's a lot more to learn there. And also how beautifully she touches on that issue of disinheritance or estrangement, which is one of the biggest issues in our culture, and her unerring instinct of finding examples of it and going in deep with her language. So I just wanted to, is it okay? I'm just going to read a tiny bit from that article because I loved it so much. That line again about the homogenizing forces of mass industry and culture attack people at the source of their strength, their ability to live as discrete, self-reliant individuals, which fascinates me. And I love how she has honed in on that. And in her poem Ghosts, for example, which is such a beautiful poem, Marlett combines her description of an alienated Japanese fisherman with the demise of another form of ghost, the marsh gas, whose flickers were once mistaken for the souls of the dead. So, and I could go on, but everyone's read it, so I won't. So, and yes to proprioception, one's life informed from and by one's own literal body, which I tried to play with in my poem today, but I think I fell short, but Marlett's a hard act to follow. But at least I got it in there a bit. And I love that analysis of Marlett's style in Steveston. And I was like, whoa, juxtapositional elision. What does that mean? So yes, it means one perception leading directly to another. She's experiencing her world viscerally, but it becomes everything beyond self, which interests me, of how much self to put in and when does it become beyond. I don't have answers to those questions. So, and yes to women's difficult subjectivity, which is addressed a lot in art history, and body as a thing at the same time as you experience in capacity. So so that's where I went with my notes, which yeah, and I loved, of course, Basho last week. I wasn't around last week, but I wanted to comment on that. And the Fred Waugh interview was amazing, and the reading, his reading is really, really great. So Paul, you can screen share my poem if you want, but you don't have to, or I just read it. I did send it to you, but I can just read it if it's easier. What's your, I don't know how much you want to screen share. I like it when I see other people's work, but people don't have to see mine. So Salt Spring Island Dog Patch. I'm looking for land on Salt Spring. It's tricky because it's super expensive. And this is an adventure I had last week. So Lectio Divina, I am reading the land I've just arrived at as I get out of my car onto a narrow plateau above a large yellow grassed field bordered by alders and firs, second growth, that evolves into wetlands that must reverberate with the croaks of Pacific chorus frogs in the spring. The field enters my lungs, camas bulbs included, a wetland season separated out. As we walk, the realtor and I, down the driveway, I'm aware of something else inside me, a ball of cloth stuffed in its, tied to a chair, a ball of cloth tied in its mouth to keep it from feeling, living in my throat. Is it history's angel busy holding me hostage? I can't stop thinking about Coast Salish blankets woven in the Gulf Islands in the mid-1800s, made of mountain goat wool, woolly dog hair, human hair, local and imported dyes, and how the women kept their woolly dogs with their soft white fur on tiny islands away from their village. These wool dogs are extinct now. We walk up to the pump house with the well. Further down the driveway, there's a trailer with a clapboard extension. The man who lives in the trailer appears, long greasy hair, baseball cap, lives here with his son, not young. I am an unwilling voyeur. I could topple his kingdom with a word as I follow the realtor past the big screen TV from the extension into the trailer's kitchen with all the charm cooked out of it, gazing into minimalist bedrooms, mattresses on the floor. Apparently there's a corn snake in the house inside the aquarium underneath the giant TV screens, CNN News. 5 feet long, not venomous, he says. A constrictor like a boa, and this man keeps chickens, but there's only one remaining. I shoot the raccoons, he says, but he only needs 1 chicken anyway. This one lays 2 eggs a day. We see it later, the lone chicken perched behind the trailer, very quiet. Direct sun in the summer, the man says. His tomato plants around the front steps thrive. Later at Barb's Buns, on the railing of the balcony where I'm writing in my journal about Crow as ancestor, one shows up and interrogates the air around me, probing with its beak, made to pry open the bivalves with electric hinges. That makes a soft noise, chthonic, a message born of wet earth and star stuff, like an etching by Jean Dubuffet called The Substance of Stars. All gray, all soft grays and complex differentiated textures. Is this crow one of my ancestors who used to live here, incarnated in a crow body? It flies back to the eaves of the roof across the lane to join the other crows, all of them cawing loudly at the man having coffee with his friend in a courtyard as he speaks of his deep loneliness and quotes the words of his spiritual teacher. On a Tuesday afternoon on a gray February day, this cawing has the texture of human hair mixed with imported dyes, russet chicken feathers, raccoon fur, and snake scales. And there we go. So very, very first drafty, but I had a lot of fun.
Seems perfect to me. What do you want to fix? What do you mean drafty? It seems perfect. I wish you would have read it a little more slowly. You rush through your work and you don't give us a chance to savor the outstanding line breaks, which Sam Hamill told me you can tell a poet if they have an ear or not by their line breaks. And your line breaks are so exquisite. There was one up here that I was thinking of, but there was so much happening. It's hard to keep up, but you know, it's there. I couldn't think of one place where I would want to break it differently than what you've done. You know, but you don't let us savor those. You read it like you're reading prose, and that's a disservice to the quality of the work, I think.
Oh, well, thanks for reminding me, Paul. And it's okay to call. It's okay to phone me on my phone and tell me to slow the F down.
No. I love the notion of crow as potential ancestors. And I had it queued up. Is this crow one of, there was something else? I forget exactly what it was. Is this crow one of my ancestors who used, see, you can't say, you would say used if you're not familiar with her work, as I wasn't, because I've only heard it once. Is this crow one of my ancestors who used to live here, incarnated in a crow body? I mean, just that is so fascinating to think about that, the possibility of that. And here you are in your place, deep in your place. You've got the history of these dogs. For those who don't know, there was a specific dog in these islands, San Juan Islands, Gulf Islands, that they made wool out of, the indigenous people. It's absolutely fantastic. There's still weavers left, but of course no more dogs because the dogs are gone. And you could see why, because the greasy guy, he and his ilk probably had something to do about that. I shoot the raccoons. And corn snake, I'd never heard the phrase corn snake before. Can you fill me in on that? Do you have any idea what that means?
Oh, I should have looked it up and I haven't yet, actually, just that he said it was like a boa. But yeah, let's look it up. Do a screen
Fantastic,
share
corn
with-
snake.
So
And of
there's
course,
it's a type of snake with a banded. My son had one for years. His was red. They come in a variety of colors, but it's a non-venomous, like they said, constrictor. Good pet snake. They make
Yeah.
good first pet snakes.
here in the Northwest, I think it's supposed to be spelt. You have to have a spelt snake because of the gluten-free kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, just fantastic. And you're digging in a place. There's Barb's Buns, which we were at almost the whole day. We were at Barb's Buns.
Hanging out. It's where
but,
you go hang out in
It's where you
Ganges.
hang out, but it's a luminous detail. And for anyone who's been to Salt Spring, we get a sense of the quality of it. And if we haven't, it's just wonderful to talk about Barb's Buns. I think that's a lovely name and it stands out. Even if we've never been there and we'll never go there, we have some sense of that. Oh my God, this is gorgeous. And the allusions to, the native people and the specifics, the camas bulbs, so on and so forth. Fantastic. I haven't seen the chat. There's 16 chat messages I haven't seen, but anything else you want to say about?
Just that I feel that I want to go back to that long poem thing that Daphne Marlett brings up. That this has been a series of poems I've been working on about Salt Spring. This is a return to writing about Salt Spring after a long time. And I've written tons about my ancestors, and it's in this manuscript I have. So it's this won't be in the manuscript, but this is like take 2 of Salt Spring for me. And every time I go there, like the last time I was sitting at Barb's Buns, there was this crow shoving stuff down onto the table to get my attention. And that's where the idea of the ancestors came, because I really felt like they were talking to me. They go back to the great grands, and I really feel like they want me over there, even though it's not going to be that easy. And I just, yeah, so, but that's more about the subject matter rather than the process. But I really felt the process in this. Maybe I wrote about that too and I didn't read it. I don't know. Hang on. I don't want to take more time, but
take all the time you need, for the love of the baby Jesus. This is important.
Oh yeah, just there is more. Just the organic poetry. I responded to that too. I resonate with letting the poem rip, at least it seems. What I felt when I was writing this, I read this and went, yeah, the speech where it is least careless and least logical, that's the Olson. And it does come from acknowledging the constellation of experiences, which is, I'm finding recently, the writing from the experience of a single day or a day in a flashback, writing to capture all the levels of awareness. A la Virginia Woolf's stream of consciousness gets interesting results. I've always loved Levertov's form as a revelation of content. Seems to evolve naturally with the poem. If I'm following the stream of consciousness, the intuitive turns, the surprise of the next idea that came from God knows where. And yes, to non-linearity. It seems to be a surrender of faith that it will work out. I still get in the way if I'm not careful. If I'm feeling lower on Maslow's triangle that day, which is responding to that your article, Paul. And the tuning follows later, layers the work. One goes in and out of following surprise mind, back to tuning. And I love that feeling of partnership. I don't have the word for it, but that's what it is. You're partnering with the noetic quality of the poetry. And when you're tapped into that, it's such a beautiful feeling. And I also write better when I do my spiritual practice. So there we are.
Show us more than just your nose and forehead, if you can.
Oh, sorry, I can't. When I'm reading, I can't see.
It
I
down.
can't see my face
I
anymore.
hate that. God, I hate that. Stop doing that.
I know. Yeah.
You know, the one perception directly leads to another was expertly demonstrated by Susan. You know, she had that, and it was, I think it was a red-tailed hawk, and then what was the other one? The baby, was it a baby falcon? I think after that. I mean, your mind just goes to that. When I'm writing and it's too, there's not specifics. If I'm writing in generics, as I'm writing, I'll say, I've got to have a specific in there. I'll look out the window, and of course, there's plenty of examples right now. In fact, there always are examples, and this is because, you know, when you talk about going beyond self, you know, you're talking, when you connect with something deeply, as you have, as have been several examples tonight of people connecting deeply to things outside of themselves. Alfred North Whitehead had this great word. You know, it's one thing to notice, okay, there's some crows in the sky going across. But if you take a look at them, you know, oh, there's 37 crows and here's 42 more. And you get some sense that they're not just these blackbirds who are up digging up grub here in this neighborhood and are dropping things and shitting down on you from street lamps, but you're prehending them. They're essentially an extension of your consciousness. And I think that Tim could probably relate this to the theater world too, but I'll use an example you know, judge me for it, but it was on a golf course. And I don't hit the ball straight. I usually hit it with a slice, which means it goes like that. So I started just playing the slice, you know, I'm like, aim it that way and it'll come back where you need it. You lose distance that way, but what the hell? But on this one day in Snohomish, we were on an elevated tee and I hit the ball and I could feel it in my hands before I even looked up. And this is a split second. I could feel it in my hands that it was struck properly. And then as I looked out, this ball was going straight and it was going like this. And I watched it peak and then, and you watch it and it was completely straight, which is an unusual thing for me. And it was such a visceral moment that there was this extension of me going out and I was enjoying it while it happened. Of course, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to hit it long and straight in golf. Of course, unless it's a pitch or a putt or whatever, but that drive, you want to hit as long and straight as you can. And it was this visceral feeling of prehension. This golf ball, this extension of me was going out there. So when we engage deeply with things in our environment, it's not just that we see them, that we do whatever, but they are extensions of ourselves. And this is going to get, you know, Olson talked about in Projective Verse, the power that objects share, something to that effect. And that's what you're doing. Not only are you doing it with the things in your environment, with the history of your environment, but also with the language itself. You use that word, partnering with it. That's what Robert Duncan said. He said, I don't use language, I cooperate with it. That's a much more egalitarian place to start. And that kind of humility is going to get you places. I'm convinced of it. I would, you know, people are getting down on the word seminal because it means seed and it also means semen. And that's seen as a masculine thing. I don't think seeds are necessarily, but so the word seminal, in talking about Daphne Marlett, you might get some pushback about that. And there might be a different word.
Oh yeah, maybe from Daphne herself.
She might say, you
I gotta
know,
work
I
on
like
that.
what you're saying, but could you use another word
Like,
besides seminal?
not that word when you talk about me, please.
That's right. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe someone has a replacement word for that, just to let you know that that word is loaded. So I don't know. I
Certainly
know
in
what
her
you're
way.
saying. I don't have a problem with it, but other people do. And I think that's all I wanted to say. God, these are fucking
Yeah.
amazing poems. You people are getting it. It's such a beautiful thing when people are getting it and they're running with it. You know, it's beautiful. What else, Adelia? Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Your spiritual practice? You said something about writing about your spiritual practice. You connected
Oh,
the two
better after I've done it. After
you've done Latihan.
You do Latihan Sunday
Yeah.
mornings, and I
Well, it's
find
receiving.
I start writing before the Latihan, and I write after. And wow, if that day doesn't go so well in the flow of it, and there's that detachment and that peacefulness that I'm feeling, and it helps. It's hard to write. I have to really work up to be in the writing place, the writing space, and you can get pulled out of it if somebody in your life behaves like an idiot, or you know. I'm lucky. Most people in my life are wonderful, but there was a committee meeting yesterday that threw me off for a while. Avoid committee meetings, and yeah, and it's just whatever it takes to get into that zone, right? And I feel like I'm trying to organize so much of my life around making sure I can get to that place where I can do some writing, because it makes me so much happier when I do. So
It's a good day when
yeah.
you come out with a poem. When you come out with a poem like that, it's a good day. Yeah. It's surprising that more Subud people don't get the connection between spontaneous composition and Latihan. To me, it's stunning. And it's education. People are trained to settle for this nice little piece of rhetoric that they agree with, instead of seeing something that it requires a little more difficulty, but as D.H. Lawrence said about Walt Whitman, changes the blood. And I think he said that before they were really doing blood testing, like every 2 weeks, to see if it was actually changing the blood. Your thyroid medicine is changing your blood, Paul. I think the dose you're on is appropriate. He said that in 1913 or something like that. The work that changes the blood. That's what this kind of thing, I'm convinced of it. So thank you for changing my blood. My blood was due for a change, not like as bad as Keith Richards, but maybe a short version.
Well, it's inspired by what you're sharing with us, Paul. I mean, this is just beautiful stuff that you're sharing, and that I was able to find the resonance with the organic poetics in it. I was going, I've read it before, it's not the first time, but I'm reading it again going, oh, I think I'm finally experiencing this. Gee, wow, it takes a while,
Takes a while.
whatever, done my 10,000 hours, but I don't know how many hours, but there it is. And it's like that lovely feeling of being on the bicycle and swooping down the hill, just trusting that the hill will take you.
I'm not going to take away from you the power to choose the next person, but I'm going to ask you to keep that a little secret until all of us had a chance to visit the bathroom, have a smoke, get the water, whatever it is we do during these 3 gorgeous minutes, which end up being 5. So I'm going to say it's 13 after. I'm going to shoot for 17 after, and then Adelia will give you the rest of the story as to who will be going next.
Okay, when we come back, right?
We'll be right back.
Okay.
Adelia, before you leave, what was the line, thonic, right before thonic, there's some kind of sounds or something?
Oh, hang on. I could get it up on my screen. So
Could you? Sorry.
No, not sorry.
I just this whole idea. I love the idea of the little deities. So it was like something made a sound, and it was.
Oh, the crow. The crow showed up on the balcony, and makes us okay. He shows up on the balcony, and he's interrogating the air around me, probing with its beak made to pry open bivalves with electric hinges, then makes a soft noise, phonic.
Yes.
A message born of wet earth and star stuff, which so thank you for, I'm delighted that it's, that it that it made you feel something, you
Oh
know?
yeah, I just said, suddenly there was this, oh, I know that word. And what was it? It was a sound. And then, oh yes. So the little deities in the oysters.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta
Thanks.
pee.
Yeah, we all got to, I think.
We are going to extend our stay in Mendocino so that we don't have to rush to Grants Pass very early in the morning. And I will be in Mendocino next week out of my library. So I will not be able to just reach over and grab a book and be able to quote exactly somebody. So, and next week is this week 4? Is this week 4 of this week? This week? Yes, week 4. Yeah. So next week is the last week. Skip 2 weeks and then come on after that. So it's not a big thing. Susan, as I was going to the bathroom, on the way to the bathroom, I started thinking of your poem about the mountain. And I don't know if I communicated this, and I guess it's probably worth hearing more than once, but I studied with a guy, self-proclaimed holder of a lineage. I think it was the Northern Treasure School of the Tibetan Bun culture. Bun is B-O-N with an umlaut over the O, and it's the indigenous religion of Tibet. And there's some questions as to whether he was authentically holding that lineage or if he made it up and was kind of if there was some con involved. But he did say some interesting things. And one of them is that the mountains are like repositories of everything that's ever happened in the region. They're like Aboriginal libraries in a way. And Aboriginal people consider this to be true because all the energetic waves of everything that's ever happened are lodged there and held in the mountain, and they're very old beings. I remember going into the sweat lodge and the native people calling grandfather, calling the stones grandfather, So there, that gives you all kinds of possibilities if you think about that, about the history of what's been done and how the mountain holds that information, holds the resonance. I think the resonance of every step, I think, is something what I said in the Elegies for Slaughter. So just something that went through my head that I wanted to communicate with you. And I've only heard 2 poems in that series, but it's fantastic. And I wish you continued success. And if there's anything I can help feed that, please let me know. 19, holy shit, 2 minutes later than I was thinking. Oh, so Adelia, the pressure has been on, I know, as you've taken your bathroom break. However, it is now time for you to make a decision.
I was going to ask Laura to present next.
There we have it. Or I was going to say,
Well,
I saw the name malaria come up, and I'm like, what's with malaria? I thought maybe that's the computer Laura's on in Helena, Montana. But no, that was Carlton messing with us again. So Laura, it's all yours.
Okay. Adelia, I related so much to what you were saying about not being in the space when you're thrown out of it. I'm frequently having those days where I'm lower on Maslow's hierarchy and not feeling like I can slip into it. In fact, today, so I'm in Montana and I'm here for an argument tomorrow in front of a court and feeling a lot of butterflies and nerves and have just been feeling tense all day. But I forced myself to sit down and write, and now I feel like a million times better. So I'm going to read you. And Paul, your organic poetry piece, which I had read before, was really helpful in reminding me how good it is, how good the spontaneous composition process is. So this little piece that I just wrote today, I was proud of myself for it's really spontaneous, and I'm a believer. So I'll read it to you. So it's again, can you guys see this? I can't see it though. Let's see. Okay. Year of the Tiger. Lying on my dad's couch. Oh, and also I used Imperial Cannery as kind of a cover poem, a little bit. So it has a similar form, but not as good with line breaks. I need to get better at that. In fact, it has no line breaks, but it has paragraphs. Okay, Year of the Tiger. Lying on my dad's couch, listening to the river of traffic, how the painted tiger watches me, propped in his frame opposite my couch. My dad and I banged the wall trying to hang pictures. The neighbor banged back on his opposite wall. Then he banged on our door. I'm hanging pictures, my dad said cheerfully as he opened the door to a serious face. Oh, the neighbor said, softened. Want me to take down your trash? We couldn't hang the pictures. I'm like a monkey at this stuff, my dad said, collapsing and panting. All we'd done was made a big hole for a big screw to hang its head from. So the tiger is propped, watching me. I've seen his full of himself kind before. He's saying something like, I'm the hootinest, tootinest, shootinest bobtail wildcat in the West. I like his serious brashness. He's so serious, I want to kiss him, this tiger, and feel just how seriously impervious he is to kisses. Now I am old enough to take my own adventures, thread through LAX to SLC to HLN, from shuttle to plane to shuttle to plane. Now I look at the couple arguing as we deplane, that's what they call it, feeling impassive, feeling how it is to be misunderstood. All of us with our bags that are too big to be polite, our hearts that are too big to be polite. We try to zip them up, they bulge. All over the airport are men and women in reflective vests, directing us up these stairs and down that corridor. And the planes roll here and there, less on tracks than we are. But I am in my element, dreaming of standing up before a judge and telling him just why a forest should be saved with its links, their ears with their black tips, their serious faces framed in the wooden sleeve of the forest that the Forest Service says is overgrown, needs logging and burning. It's too much, it's just too much, they say. But the lynx says, kiss me and see if I am too much.
Kiss my lynx. I don't think you should have taken it down that quickly. Put it up so if we have comments or if anyone has comments. And yeah, push yourself to write. I mean, William Stafford said, if you're not writing a poem a day, your standards are too high. And I think
that's good.
I just think it's fantastic. Even though I'm not a big Stafford fan, I've not read a lot of his work. I think I have some of it here. Do I have any Stafford? Maybe. He's a Cascadian, so I should have some. Like, it's nice to have the collected poems of someone like that, just to have to refer to them. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm glad you pushed yourself to write. I have this feeling, just to take a few seconds for everybody to send you good energy for tomorrow. Let's see if it works, if we can just close our eyes. Maybe it's like the proprioception experiment, to close your eyes.
Receive it.
Yeah. And just to send good healing energy for Laura King, whatever's given her butterflies, let those butterflies be released. And we hope for the best possible outcome for her. And we ask that you give her strength and courage and clarity of speech and efficacy, that the outcome may be for the best outcome for all living things everywhere. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Send the good
Thank
juju,
you.
because we're a group and we ought to support you in that way. So anybody, and now you can take, does anybody want to keep it up, or do you want to point out anything? I like the, where was it, propped in his frame opposite my couch. There's a lot of little musical things in that. I love that you're doing things with your dad. It just makes me feel so good. I love the abbreviations of the airports, so those who don't know, Helena, right? Salt Lake City, Helena, LAX to Salt Lake City to Helena. And I got my tickets to LAX, so we'll be there March 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, I think. And deplane. I remember when they first started using that word, a comedian said, Deplane, what am I going to go next? Depants? Or what? This, that. So yes, unplane, I guess, wouldn't be appropriate because you're still playing. Oh, and something about the tracks, the tracks that, oh, less on tracks than we are. The planes roll here and there, less on tracks than we are. You know, that's rhetorical, but it's so perfect, and it's so earned by all the luminous details you have in here. So, and I like the recall of the tiger and then the lynx and how you tied that together. It doesn't seem gratuitous. It seems very natural and organic to me, how you did that, the recall of that. Anyone else want to chime in?
Well, just the hearts that are too big to be polite are hearts that we try to zip them up and they bulge. I just thought that was like the core, the emotional core of the feeling of the piece. Like there's a lot of unsaid here, and there it is. So I love that.
Look at that. The chief
Thanks,
editor of the group
polite
zeroes
hearts.
in on it right away. Yeah.
I think what's so cool about writing spontaneously is that stuff comes up in cycles in this piece that I'm not even noticing, you know, and then I'm like, oh, cool. Or stuff will come up and I'll think, there's a part of me that's like, it's not logical. Don't put it in there. And I put it in there anyway. And then it has its own logic. It proves to me that there is a deeper logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of tapping into it. There's a line that McClure uses in the preface of, or the author's preface of 3 poems, that the poem has, oh fuck, I don't want to paraphrase it. I don't want to paraphrase it. I'll go get it. Hopefully I was searching for this earlier because something came up in conversation and it reminded me, everything reminds me of something from this poem. There's a certain line that he uses. The moment of writing is complex, and at the same time it is natural and vigorous. I do not know of a more adventurous gesture than to write spontaneously. Whether a poem is born from exuberance or depression, there must be ebullience, hunger for freedom, and imagination. And here's the line. When the poem is finished, I listen to it and look at it on the screen or in the ink of the pen and see that it has a deeper consciousness and brighter thoughts than I was aware of while writing. Sometimes there is difficulty in a poem. The obscurity, the ununderstandability is not there for the purpose of evasion, but it is the energy compressing and leaping and rippling just as a wave ripples with silver in the moonlight. Even in darkness, one can see that it is a silver wave. Goethe believed that poetry should be incomprehensible and incommensurable. All art is that way to some degree, but much art seems flat and lacking in courage because it neglects to be difficult. That's what I think. Yeah.
That's great.
Fantastic. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the energy send. And I have received it and we'll go kick butt tomorrow for the forest. And also on that note, I did go into the forest and do a little ritual per the assignment. And I had a little Palo Santo, which I bought at Whole Foods. I had never used it before, but it didn't light because it was too windy. But I sat next to a stream and did a little ritual with my unlit stick.
Points for trying.
Thank you.
Did you come up with something you want to share with that, or?
I didn't write a poem because it was too cold. But yeah, I just wanted to get back to my car, warm up.
I understand.
But it was a helpful. I did later in the day write an email to a friend that I felt like was my manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it had come from that
space.
The opening up to like, what am I doing? Yeah. And then it kind of came. So
far out. Nicely done, Laura.
Thank you.
Oh, and you get to pick.
I will pick Linda.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Just a minute, glasses, or I can't see what I wrote. Yeah, another good week of interesting. Oh, first of all, Carl, I didn't think I could get that movie or documentary you recommended. And then it never occurs to me to just go to YouTube and everything's there. Anyway, I discovered today that it's there, so I will watch it soon. I was really taken with the stuff about Duende. You know how Paul has links within links within links, and suddenly days have gone by. But I was today got into the one on Duende, and some of the quotations in there and everything just really spoke to me. All that has dark sounds has Duende. It's just, you can't really describe it, but you sure know if it's there or not. I'm thinking of a reading I was at in La Manzanilla a few years, about 5 years ago. And there were 5 of us reading, and one of the women had written this really long, involved, in the moment, amazing piece that she shared with me before the reading. And I said, you're going to get a standing ovation. She did. And one of the other readers, I might add, was Alice Walker, because she has a place down there. And Denise from nowhere gets this standing ovation for this amazing, and it was Duende. It was exactly, it was there, people knew. So it's just, I found it interesting reading about that. And I also really like the Larry Dossey piece about consciousness and how all we really know is that it's in the head, not the foot. I think some guys, I love that, because you start thinking about that. It's sort of like the first time when you're a kid and you gaze up at the sky and suddenly are aware that there's so much going on that we're just never going to know, So yeah, so anyway, I quite enjoyed that. I'm an earth rat. I'm at the beginning of the rat part, and Carl's at the end of the rat part, because the Chinese thing goes on for a little while. So I'm an earth rat, and Ted's a metal dragon, and that's okay. I should look up and see what his 3 previous relationships were. Figure out where he went wrong. What else did I look at?
I was married to an earth pig.
Only you could say something like that.
And it's said with love. It's said with love. And now our daughter's not talking to me.
Oh God, it's so much fun. Against the Source, the university, what's her name, Sabrina Reed, the piece where she takes apart all the Daphne Marlette stuff to do with Steveston, which then got me going to my library. And I have a really great edition of this, because at the beginning of it, it's got all these wonderful black and white pictures. Does yours as well, Paul? Because I know yours is a sort of a reprint or whatever. But yeah, okay, yeah. So it's the most gorgeous book. I hadn't looked at it closely, possibly ever, and I've read some of it and so on. But anyway, so I got totally into it, and yeah, Daphne Marlette for the win this week.
Well, in many ways, it's really in the wheelhouse of what I'm trying to get across, because it's Olson's Poetics done by a woman, and it's writing the scales in many ways. It's a serial poem that goes into the history of place. It more deeply connects her to place, and it's showing the light on a culture that's more advanced than us, Japanese culture, and how Japanese people came and practiced their culture here. We're going through the poems written in the concentration camps, the haiku and senyu written, and before that, between the wars, and how these people held on to their inner lives despite all, you think it's bad what we're going through to try and write. Can you imagine being in a concentration camp and all those things? So what Daphne did with Steveston is absolutely right in the wheelhouse, I think, of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing book. So yes, I've been really enjoying delving into that. What else? Oh yeah, so I did the little ritual thing. I managed to get away, and I went down to the river, and I'll do a screen share. And I wrote a very short poem. I'm on my laptop and it's not working, so. Just a second. Yeah, I'm sorry. I will just read it to you. Hang on. Yes, anyway, so I went down to, it's called Waldy Island Trail, and started walking on that. Well, a couple of things. My left hip's been bothering me, which just pisses me off. I don't want to be at an age where I can have a hip that's bothering me. But anyway, it's been bothering me. So that plus the fact that it's an area that's not overly busy. I mean, like somebody would come if something happened, but you know, you don't really want to test the theory for too long. Anyway, and it's very slippery and up and downy, so I didn't go very far, but I went in a little ways, and then I went down by the river, the Columbia River, and lit a little votive light candle, and it was still enough that it actually, I was able to get a picture, you know, like it was actually still enough to burn for a second. And then I wrote this little poem, Always of the River. And there's the river, always moving, always fierce. Year of the tiger arrives with Imbolc, and I'm wondering what immortal hand will guide my own in search of words buried so deep their very bones have bled into river-rounded stones, into spider-trestled bridges, into sunlight captured in Bible beam clouds. A solitary leaf floats on its back, going nowhere. And that's it.
Bible beam clouds. What were you raised, religion-wise?
Sort of half Anglican, half United, half heathen.
I was raised in the Baptist church. Yeah. Say that again. What was it? Say the Bible beam clouds. Is that what? Bible
Yeah,
beam.
you know, when the.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I know exactly what you said the moment you said it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I put my candle, my votive candle, in a Napoleon, an empty, clean Napoleon pesto jar, and it worked fantastic. And there were remnants of two homeless encampments there at the little park, Chinook Beach Park. But I did the Find It, Fix It. We have a little app in Seattle, Find It, Fix It. And you can say, what's wrong? Where is it? City Park? Yes, City Park. And then what is it? You know, remnants of a homeless encampment. And then they come and clean it up eventually. And they cleaned one of them. So the next day I saw that one was gone and I thought, hey, that's great. And then the other one was still there. So I did it again. And the Columbia River, to be writing about the Columbia River up there before all the dams, the dams that someday will hopefully not be there. Fantastic.
Oh,
You know?
well, on the Kootenai River, which of course feeds into the Columbia right here in Urushenia where I am, on the Kootenai River between Nelson and here, which is 30 mile, going miles for you guys, I think it's about 30 miles drive. There are 5 dams.
Yeah. Yeah, that can't go on. That's not sustainable.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, good week. Thank you.
Nicely done. Thank you. Who's next?
Let's have Skylar.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. I benefited from all the readings. I loved getting another look at this, being reminded how to sort and think through these things. And the proprioception, was that supposed to just print off a few pages? Okay.
What I put in there for proprioception was just like the first 3 pages of it. So I think it was a 4 or 5 page document. There are other parts of this, and I got it from a pamphlet from the Four Seasons Foundation. So not from the collected prose. It's easier to put it on the scanner. So there's more to that essay, but I think it's going to be more fruitful to read another essay about proprioception. In fact, I think you guys are going to be blown away by it. So.
And I don't know who Sabrina Reed is, but I am so glad she wrote this. It brought together so many things for me. This, what she has to say about masculine versus feminine bodies and how that would relate to how a person can breathe in the world, and of course how that relates to projective verse. This was tying together so many things that we've been looking at for months now.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, not better than what she said, but the idea that for women, having been so objectified that it's almost like the masculine energy can go out as its own subject into the world and breathe deeply, whereas the feminine, by biology and culture, has been objectified into the other. And so we've got that additional layer to parse through.
Ladies, is this resonating with you? I'm seeing nodding heads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly. Okay.
So that was brilliant. And then the other part, I've been struggling, and I had asked this question about how to, you guys know I have this intention to work with this ream of material, family history documents. And so how to write in a projective verse kind of way when I'm working through source material, because the immediacy of projective verse, it seems to me, can lead you into writing sort of first person, single day poems, almost like the Frank O'Hara, I did this, I did that kind of thing. But I know there's more depth to it than that. And so I loved this excerpt from Marlat's, of course I can't find it. From Imperial Cannery, 1913, on page 138 from the printout. These lines, now she's old enough to be her mother inside, working, with the smallest one standing by her skirt in grubby dress, and the blood streams down the wooden cutting board as the iron chink, that's what they call it, beheads eats fish. And so this was, to me, just such a great example of how do you move into an imagined history and yet still have one perception follow another perception, follow another perception. So yeah, this was so helpful. So thank you for that. And I did write a poem based on some of those materials that my brother brought to me, and I can share that. There we go. This is John Quincy Morrow's Moonshine, Cornfield. My great-great-great-grandfather, John Morrow, and his brother-in-law, Stube Cole, deserted the Confederate Army and spent 1863 hiding out at the homestead their pregnant wives shared near Jasper, Alabama. He wouldn't talk about the war much. When pressed, he spoke of the Moonshine cornfield he and Stube planted and tended during the long season they hid from rebels and Yankees alike. A week of planting in the full moon, in the middle of a stand of loblolly pine, for a half acre of dent corn that became flour, that became winter's corn pone that fed the women and children. The hardest part was getting Stube to be quiet. Stube was always talking, 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 and the soft press of darkness carried every syllable and twig snap, and reminding Stube to wear his darkest shirt because white shirts signaled back to the moon. The full moon looked down on them. Corn seeds cracked open and reached for the bright, uncomplicated light. John knew the moon kept its own secrets, and the more it shone, the darker the shadows he and Stube could step into when they heard shod hoofbeats. John kept the secrets of what he and Stube knew of war, except to say, from what I saw, There was no blue and gray. Red was the color most soldiers wore in the end.
Wow, this feels so epic. This feels so epic. Just the start too. Is this the first poem in the project?
From yeah, from this quadrant of the family.
No, I mean for your project.
No. I mean, I've been writing about other family members.
I see.
This is the first one about John.
The uncomplicated light, it reminds me of the short sky, reminds me of these great modifiers that we've heard tonight that are so original that it's just beautiful. And I love how he carried every syllable and twig snap. There's just such music in here. It tells the story. It feels alive, as if we're in 1863. I think that's part of what the projective method will do. It'll make you feel here and now because you're writing it in the here and now. That's part of it. And I think that's one of the keys. It takes away one of those, strips away one of those layers that would keep you from that. One of those buffers, strips that away. It's closer to the source of the energy. Fantastic. I love this.
Thank you.
That's not your whole check-in, is it?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You get to choose the person that goes next.
Oh, I choose KJ.
Isn't that a pisser? You're ready to go first. Don't share your screen, Tim. Do you have to share your screen? Are you?
What?
Is it Tim sharing a screen?
Somebody's in here. I hope it wasn't me.
I got it. I don't think it's you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Sorry about that.
Skylar, nice work. Beautiful. I look forward to seeing what you do with this. Fantastic. KJ, what's happening?
I guess there's so much I could talk about, but one of the things I guess that didn't move me maybe as much as it did some other people is the difference between, men writing something and women writing something. I guess because I've been in the men versus women thing for decades, and although it resonates with me as truth, it's not a surprisingly new thing to think about. So when I looked at what she was writing, basically what I was getting was, we are all going to experience a poem, whether it's writing it or reading it, from ourselves, and whatever our experience is in that. And then I kind of bird walked, and I was thinking about when I talk to my siblings sometimes, and I think about an occasion that happened, and then they go, "What?" And then they tell me what they thought happened, and we were there at the same time, and we had the same stuff happening, but because of whatever those little things that are different that make us who we are, the whole story, the whole feeling, the whole whatever is different. And then I went off on another bird walk where I'd heard something about the unreliability of eyewitnesses on things, and how there's been studies done, and brain studies even done, on what people see in that flash of a moment, and how it can be very unreliable. It could be a tall person. Oh, it was a tall person. It was a short person. It was a black person. It was a white person. It was just all this strange stuff. So I was just really thinking about how people can get so many different things out of a poem, and people can mean so many different things or not mean anything when they're writing their poetry. And that made me think about poetry classes in college, and how I just had such a hard time, because anytime we were looking at somebody's poetry, this was what they meant when they wrote that. And I was always going, but why, and I didn't agree with it. So I never did very well in those kinds of classes. Anyway, I always like to think about things like that and to be reminded that we each are coming from wherever it is we're coming from, and nobody comes from exactly the same place. Certainly there are big differences in being men and women. There are big differences in being black and white. There, things like that I totally agree and understand on. But when it comes right down to it, we are all in totally different places. I too did the ritual for myself. I happened to not even look at any of our stuff until the morning of February 2nd. So it's like, oh my gosh, I have to, I have to do this today. I have a pool in my backyard, so I just took the easy way out, went out, sat by the pool on a cushion, had my candle there, had some great incense that I got from, we have an Orthodox monastery not far from here, which actually has 5 or 6 churches. That it's the mother of the whole United States churches. There's Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox and all these different churches that are all in this one monastery place. And I'd gotten some incense from their shop there, and I used that. And I just was doing kind of like just to promote creativity, to promote and strengthen my relationships with my kids. That's real important to me right now, just things like that. So I felt really good about it. And before I did that, I smudged my entire house. So I really felt like, whew, we're ready to go. My writing this week, I'm in the poetry piece card, or the piece poetry postcard, whatever that is, thing where I'm writing a postcard a day and in February. So I thought I would just read you. I tried something I haven't done before, which is beginning the next postcard with the last line of the one that I did before. And they're not very long because I feel happy with writing a line or two a day. But I was kind of amazed when I went back at how nicely they all sounded together. So I don't have a screen thing to share with you. They're still in my book. So I'll just read through them. They're pretty short. Oh, before I do that, I wanted to just share a sentence I wrote at the end of our last meeting. We were once again talking about mountains and Susan's thing with mountains. And the line that I wrote down was, "The only mountains here are the tiny ones made by ants in the cobbled driveway." Those are my mountains right now. But and coming from the Pacific Northwest, it's kind of a letdown. But okay, so you'll be able to tell when a new day begins because it'll have a repeated line in it. These are only pieces of blue in the uncarded wool of sky. It is enough today. It is enough today to hear the cats meow, to see the sunrise, to taste reheated coffee, to open my eyes once more. To open my eyes once more, dress, creep down the stairs, and see you, slices of bread laid out assembly line style, mayonnaise and tuna fish, that knowledge of the world as a safe place. My world as a safe place. I sit in fire and water, in protest and contemplation, rainbow children and grandchildren, rainbow bridges of parents lost. Bridge of a parent lost, flick of a flock of birds, switching colors at each turn, each wing flap heard on both sides. That's them.
Where did
That's
that come
majestic.
from? The wing flap on both sides. What was the inspiration for that? That sounds so familiar.
Uh,
Don't
just my head. Yeah.
know. I must have been there.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean when you bird walk?
When I bird walk, it's some people say they go down a rabbit hole. You know, I bird walk. That's what I would call
I
it.
see. Far out.
So-
You know, you talk about not riding along, but then there's Lorene Niedecker. I wouldn't call her an organic poet, but I think living the life of a poet, exemplary. And I'm trying to find that DVD of her, of the film about her, and I can't, but I found a very a longish excerpt, or a page with 3 excerpts, and they all look like they include some of the same materials. So I'm going to include that in the curriculum, in the course materials for next week. So it doesn't have to be long. No, it has to be. I mean, it should be potent, right? And I think your poems were potent. I also, when I read the thing about Daphne Marlett saying it's different for a man, I think there's some truth to that. But I'm glad you said what you did, because, you know, it didn't really settle well with me. And maybe it's because I'm a man. I'm perfectly able to suggest maybe that's what it is. I don't know what it's like to be in the world as a woman. I do know what it's like to have been abused. I do know what it's like to have been a victim in that way. I do resonate with the words of that great American philosopher, Naomi Judd, who said, the first time you're a victim, after that you're a volunteer. That's a paraphrase of what she said, but I think there's something to be said of how, you know, we can be a victim once, but if we keep attracting that energy, maybe people are picking up on that. I remember seeing a movie or some kind of film or some kind of TV show about talking with pickpockets and showing that they showed these different pickpockets one at a time, you know, scenes of people walking down the street, and they said, who would be the people that you would try to pick their pockets? And all the pickpockets, without knowing, they picked the same people. Why is that? There was something that person was giving out, apparently, that made them say, those are the people I'm going to pick. And all the pickpockets picking the same ones. I think there's something to that. But I also am convinced that, or I understand that from a male perspective, there are things set up in this world that favor me. And maybe it's easier for Charles Olson to write those things than it is for Daphne Marlett. But I'm glad you said what you did, because I wanted to know what you people thought about that. And it didn't settle on me as well as the other piece on proprioception, which I've read again, and it took me a while to get through. I couldn't put it in, but I'm going to be putting it into next week. So I'm glad you're doing the postcard thing.
It's always an inspiration to keep, you know, to
keep the pen going.
To right, to keep the pen going. But I was also thinking, when you're talking about, you know, I think that if we take the time, a lot of us can resonate to those things that, when we talk about differences between men and women, and we talk about differences between black and white, we're usually talking about power versus not power, kinds of things. And my husband and I have had lots of conversations like that, because he it basically goes on, well, this happened to me, and although you can say you don't really understand it, and I would say, well, I don't really understand that particular thing, but here's how I look at it from my point of view and the things that I've had happen to me in my life. So it's interesting. There's always that, like you were saying, you can speak from, you know, the being abused and being whatever. A lot of people can. But I think, I don't know. Anyway, my soapbox could go on some of these things.
Well, it's not a soapbox, because we're interested in hearing what you think. We're interested in, and it helps shape our perceptions. One thing you left unsaid with it is that your husband's black. Did everybody remember? Everybody remember that she's married to a black man? So it's interesting for me to engage black men and hear misogynistic comments. I mean, because all these different things play out, and it's very interesting to see that. And I love that your husband's the one who cooks in your house. We were talking about this
Oh, yes.
before everybody checked in. She said, "You want to say again what you said to me at the beginning?"
Well, I don't know exactly what I said.
You said you're getting together, potentially getting together with this guy, and you said, I got 2 rules.
Oh yeah. My 2 rules are number 1, I don't cook, and number 2, I don't clean bathrooms. And he said, no problem. I'm willing to do both of those, and I cook really well. So
when Laura joined us, I said we were talking about barbecue rib sandwiches and toilets, but that was the short.
Yeah.
That was a shorthand of what we were talking. I'm feeling like I need to adopt this. I'll take my. Can you hear me? Okay, they changed because I can't play these videos with my earphones, because then you don't get to hear. So I'm going to play this. I think we have. I don't see dinner on the table yet. I want to share this from my series, Flexible Mind. So let's see what happens if this goes. Oh, it's 2 minutes long. It's kind of a long one. Come on. Come on. There we go. Is it going to go? It's not going. Why the hell is it not going? Oh, come on. Please go. Well, it's not going. Dag nabbit, Luke. Y'all can see the big sphenoid bone, yeah? For some reason, it's not going. Let me just try that one more time. Where's this going? He is the... Oh, and I took a Daphne Marlet line. It's just not going. Son of a bitch. I've got this whole beautiful video. Well, I'll have to get it to you another time. Instead of reading or sharing that, I'm going to do what Adelia said and read more of Steveston. I'm going to pick up where we left off for marriage. Didn't we leave that for marriage, for birth, for death? Was that the end of it? Imperial Cannery, right? That was the last one. Pour. From its bank, this river is rivering urgency, roar, Goku, through any hole, like boats race tide, a mill race, as the possible entry of this channel for invisible under their hulls and flying heels. The fish re-enter time, racing north of Roberts Bank, past Albion Dyke, then Woodward Reach, opposite Woodward Landing, where the ferry ran, by Woodward Slough, then Gravesend Reach and City Reach. The river proper lies past any tidal reach. Renew, fish seek their source, which is their proper place to die. Quote, the river is alive, he says. Crippled fisherman on the radio watching water swollen with filth, with sewage, mill dirt, strain at the sandbag dike, at its container, uncontainable, irrational, hence renewable, creature swelling up and birthing, huge, past all their plans and plants, its urgency to meet the sea where men go when they are able, like the fish. It eddies too, backwater, Hong Wo, where unable moss shackles an abandoned roof, or marsh grass thick with seed head, silent bunkhouse into a wind live off the river. Sun is scouring, walk, a wall will be silent as light-rimmed wood. Knowing what? Evidence? Gaunt, a face glimpsed from behind, tatter, window hanging, he keeps their story, his haunt, locked dust, its stilled clock barely visible, shelves still stocked, in part vacant-eyed. He stares, trying not to be seen, to see he is the visible remnant of time's push. Here, where it eddies back on his suspicion, under the fenced-up place he keeps his dog, back at the dock, this place source he haunts, his bark or its invisible guardian of old receipts, accounts not rendered, months yellowing into irrelevant years, some 7 in quick succession, glancing like light off water no one registers, the way tide swells up under these pilings where the tag ends of his mind keep Hong Wo's good luck chips echoing down the galvanized floor of the wash tank across the way, in back of what was once 1, 2, 3, 4 company source of need as cash or kind of company account. No hand skims now. Closing in on this life, this or this foreclosed at dusk now. Opening the door, he wanders out to sit, leaning his chair against the wall and contemplating closed up houseboards, a sweltering mattress, or the few remaining cards as visages. His vision is accretion, unaccountable. Is he accountable? Or facing mountains he can't see, wires, and the roar of Richmond's skyline, money, only the false front silhouette, west, occupies his mind, disused, opportune, broccoli box tide swells and moves this way or that, but always to cast up finally in the muck low tide shallows, or the last spasm of visible body leaves, some seed as imprint or continuance, continuing to pour down as light or time, this town downstream, its own downpour. God, I love that line. He is the visible remnant of time's push. And that's the line I stole from my Imbolc poem, which didn't play. And I'll have to send it to you as a YouTube link in the course materials. Dinner is served. Does anyone have any other? I don't have to put my headphones on. I'm not going to put them back. Anybody have any closing thoughts before we go? Whoa, it's like an incantation. Yeah. Yeah. It's potent because I mean here is a woman, here is a lesbian, here's a person who's seen these people been shit on, sees that they have an inner life, sees that they got fucked out of whatever the Canadian equivalent of the American dream is, and that emotion is pouring forth, and she's allowing it to pour forth, using the process, giving us a feeling of that I'm fighting this injustice and I'm telling these people's story. You know, if it's the last fucking thing I do. And fortunately for us, it wasn't. So that's the kind of, that you talk about duende, there you have it. That's poem rich with duende. The previous poem, rich with a duende of dead fish who are not being treated in the sacred way that we should be treating our food because we're putting it in our bodies and we're not going to treat it in a sacred way. No wonder why they call it junk food, or in Spanish, comida basura, garbage food. Has to be a shift in the way we deal with these things. And of course, the poets are first, they know the shift, they articulate it, they show us what went wrong and how it can be. So I don't know when I'm going to get the course materials on. I've got a meeting in 21 minutes, I've got to eat dinner, then I'm going to take a walk, probably after that. So I hope to get it out tonight. I will be seeing you from Mendocino, California next week. We're looking forward to being there. We leave on Thursday. I love you people all. You're amazing poets. I love seeing what comes out of this work. It gives me joy. It gives me energy. And I thank you for being there. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Hope you have a great week. We miss Anne Graham Walker.
We do. I'll contact her. Anyway, that was wonderful, Paul. You have a good week. Very good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.